is. I don't always get my Fridays off, but it's all good. It's all good. All right. So what year in school are we all? Who's first year? Any first years? Oh, good. Welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. Good. Second years? No second years. Okay. Third years? Okay. Fourth? All right. How about my super seniors? Those are the ones that are fifth and sixth. No, I just. Okay. Any master's candidates? Oh, you got quite a few master's candidates. Oh, you're a master's candidate too. Okay. All right. Okay. 4 + 1. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Or we still have 5 more minutes here. All right. Okay. What majors? Computer science. Okay. Computer engineering, computer science. Okay. Any electrical since we're in that realm? No, a couple of you, good. All right, and then mechanical and aero. Okay, good. Astro, okay, that works too. Materials or pennies. No pennies, no materials. Okay, and then let me see, who am I missing? Civils? No civil? What other majors am I missing? I know usually biomed here. Okay, biomed, no biomed. Oh, one biomed over there. Okay, very good. Cybersecurity? Cyber is part of computer, right? No, kind of, yes.
I mean, not at USC.
Okay, so it's a separate entity here?
Yeah. It's data science.
Okay, so part of data science, okay, yes. And that is a very much an emerging field and something, yes. I mean, we have a lot of our cyber work, obviously, for obvious reasons. We have a lot of cyber work that goes on, to make sure that information isn't leaked and that it's protected. So very good. All right, well, we'll get started here in a few minutes. Let me see what else. So how many of you had summer internships last summer? How many of you are hoping to get summer internships this year? All of you. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Very good. Okay. And those of you that are graduating, there was a couple of hands for grads, graduate, or seniors, I suppose, graduating, or master's candidates maybe that are graduating. Do you have a line on what you want to do, what companies you're going to want to approach yet, or any of that? No, yes? Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of getting you prepped up for your for the career fair. We're kind of excited. We're excited to be back because we weren't allowed to travel during the pandemic. I mean, like a lot of companies. So this is kind of our first time, even though I know in the spring you had an in-person fair, but we still were not allowed to travel. So this is our first event, 2 years to be on campus. So we're very excited to be coming out and engaging with everybody in person. Not that Zoom was a good thing too. It still remains to be a good thing. Because a lot of our events, we do both. We'll have certainly in-person events with students, but we'll also be doing some Zoom events in terms of a hybrid. How many of you know about Lockheed Martin? You. Okay. I'm not really here to talk about the company, really. I'm here more to talk about how to get you guys prepped up for the career fair. I know that Brendan here went to the Northrop Grumman, our little competitor. That's fine. Any of you go to the resume workshop? Okay, all right, yeah. I refer to them as my little competitor because that's what they are. But in true transparency, I actually retired from Northrop Grumman. I had a 29.5-year career with them in university relations. And so I'm well aware of the work that they do as well. And we work together on a lot of programs. And then we compete on a lot of other programs. So it just depends in terms of, what piece of the business. So anyway, so it's interesting bumping into there. Very good. All right. Well, we're just like Northrop Grumman. We're another aerospace defense company. We refer to ourselves as a global security company because it really spans more outside of just aerospace. A lot of the work that we do, we do everything basically from undersea to outer space and everything in between. Between our aeronautics organization, which is headquartered in Fort Worth, and then our space organization. How many of you have been keeping an eye on the Artemis launch. The Orion capsule, that is a Lockheed Martin capsule. So we're very excited about Orion and watching for the launch, hopefully in another week or so. I think they said around the 23rd or something like that is a projected new launch date. Also Mars, I don't know, the Mars rover. Have you guys all been looking at the Mars launch a few months ago? Lockheed Martin had a hand in that as well. We actually assisted with the rover that is combing Mars, and then also the NERCAM, also the little autonomous air vehicle that went out and took photos and did reconnaissance. That was also via Lockheed Martin. James Webb Space Telescope was primarily the prime contractor on that was Northrop Grumman, but Lockheed Martin did the NERCAM. So they did the near infrared camera work. So all of the images that are coming from JWEST are courtesy of a Lockheed Martin camera. And the last thing, since we're going to get started now, is how many of you use GPS? Well, that's also courtesy of a Lockheed Martin. So there. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started now. My name is Margaret Paulin, and I am a campus relations manager for Lockheed Martin. I'm actually based in California, not too far from here. So I'm very happy to be here and to chat with you a little bit. Again, my main purpose is to get you ready for the career fair here that's coming up on the
28th, 26th to 28th.
Okay, so the 28th is the
Actual career fair.
actual career fair itself. And you guys all know where it's going to be taking place, right? Truesdale Parkway, correct? All right, very good. All right, so to kind of get us started, I have basically 10 tips. And then I've got a couple bonus tips to share with you. Okay, all right. So we want to go ahead and load that on in. The first one starts off with goals, right? You got to have a goal. Why are you going to the fair? So you have to have a conversation with yourself. Right? Why are you going to the fair? What are you hoping to get out of the fair? Okay. What would be deemed a success at the end of the day? All right. So again, what do you want to achieve? Obviously, you are going to want, you're there because you obviously want to get an interview, correct? And that's what your resume, and we'll talk a little bit more about your resume. Yeah, but your resume is really your key to scoring an interview. It's not your appearance and your resume are not going to score a job immediately. It's going to be first an interview, and then ideally that will lead to a job, correct? Okay, so you need to be realistic and you really need to understand, where are you going? Make sure that you've got an attitude adjustment, because I have seen some students that at fairs that aren't poised to be there. They're a little grumbly, maybe it's because it's too early in the morning. I don't know, or they haven't eaten, so maybe they're hangry. But again, you do need to make sure that you've got the right attitude when coming. Yes, you're going to have to wait in lines probably, depending upon the employer, so be prepared. So again, what are you hoping to achieve? Are you hoping to score, 2 interviews, 3 interviews, or just learn more about a company? So kind of establish, what is important to you to make that day successful, okay? So some of you, like for first years, it might be a little tough in some cases with first years to kind of score an internship. Usually most employers will want you as, as you're a rising junior, but that doesn't mean that it's completely not possible. But again, you need to be realistic in terms of, what your expectations are. Okay, the next one. Research. This is going to be important. You have homework before you go to the fair. You do want to research all the companies that are coming to the fair. Now, I know you have access to that on the Viterbi Gateway, I believe, because I was poking around and I couldn't get in because I don't have a passport to the Viterbi Gateway, but that's okay. But again, I know that there are employers out there who need to be searching that gateway to see who all's coming to the fair. I would imagine, how many employers are coming?
A lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, usually the fair is well over 100, 150 employers. Now, granted, we're just kind of coming back now after the pandemic. But I would expect that there would be a fair number of employers, and probably all my competitors will be there also. So again, you do want to do some preliminary research on the companies. You know, what do they do? Does it align with what you're interested in? Does it align with your values? Are you locations? Does it align with where you're hoping to secure that summer internship or full-time opportunity? So you're going to have to do some digging. And where do you go to dig for that stuff? Well, you can go to Google, certainly, but where else? The company website, absolutely. All the companies will have websites, right? And you can Google in case you don't know what the website address is, and it will pull it right up for you. And so that would be where I would recommend that you do go, is to the company website and take a peek and see if this is the right company. And then you would probably put it on your list of companies that you do want to make that you do want to make sure that you visit on the day of the career fair. Is this still working? It doesn't sound like it. Okay, no?
Yes. Oh, dead battery.
Okay. All right. I'll just talk louder. I'm sorry for those that are online. So again, you want to go to the company website. You might also want to check out LinkedIn to see what they say about the company. Glassdoor. I know you guys are all familiar with the different websites that are out there to kind of give you information as you prep for what companies you want to visit. You also want to be able, and we'll talk a little bit about your elevator pitch, because you're also going to want to show that you have done some research on the company. All right, the kiss of death at a career fair, coming up to the table and saying, I'm not familiar with your company. I don't know what you do. Can you tell me? Now, we as recruiters or as campus relations managers, we'll still be very gracious and answer that question for you. But it is a different conversation that we have with you in terms of educating you about the company versus you being able to show us that you've already done some homework and you know what the company is all about, and that you know that you're interested in our space group or our aeronautics group or our cyber group or whatever it is, right? So it's a different conversation that you'll have with the representatives. So just keep that in mind. The only people I give a pass to are the first years, because I'm just so happy that they're coming to the career fair and you know, and striking out on that. So I will give first years a pass. Everybody else, you didn't do your homework. And you know, and the other thing too is you guys use the technology. You've got it at your fingertips. Maybe it's a company that you didn't see on the website initially. You guys have all got phones, right? Look it up before you approach the table or while you're waiting in their line, just to get some sense of whether you're standing in the right line or not. Okay, enough said. Okay, target open positions. Again, a lot of companies now are beginning to post their opportunities for fall. It's well for fall, but it's really for hiring in the 2023 timeframe. Some of those jobs could start in January for those that are graduating in December, but the majority are probably not going to start until the May or June timeframe, you know, the traditional summer for internships and also for level hires. So again, you want to go on to that website again and go to their careers page, whatever it is, and you want to start poking around that. You're going to enter keywords, you're going to use their filters, and you're going to, and hopefully you'll drill down to a manageable list of positions you think are good fits for you. Okay? When reading that position description, read it thoroughly, read it twice. You may have to read it 3 times, because sometimes companies use a lot of acronyms. And again, you want to also focus on, certainly you want to focus on the basic qualifications of the position. There are desired, which is just that. They're nice to have, but the basics are really important. Okay. So again, you want to poke around that website, target some jobs. Maybe it's mechanical engineering, or it's a software engineer internship, or a software engineer full-time position, or whatever it is. read it, become familiar with it. And again, you can certainly, address that in your elevator pitch. Okay, let me see what else. You can also set on a lot of our websites job alerts. So maybe there's not the job that you're looking for posted yet. So you can set job alerts on a lot of the sites. And so when that job does open, it will notify you that, hey, you might want to come back to this website and take a look. Okay. All right, moving on. All right, dress and eat for success. Okay, so again, what I would recommend is that you do want to come to the fair and demonstrate that you've put some effort forward in the way you're coming appearance-wise. Okay, ideally pressed would be nice, polished, but it's up to you. And then again, I don't know what career services here at Viterbi recommends, but you don't have to wear a suit. It's probably going to be blazing hot. So, but we want you to be comfortable, okay? Because most recruiters are going to be in polos or more casually looking shirts. And maybe we'll have a blazer on, it just depends. But again, we want you to be comfortable, okay? So I can't tell you how many times I've seen students really, perspiring, sweating, I could tell they're uncomfortable in their jacket and their tie and everything else, or whatever it is, or their footwear that they've chosen to wear. I can, see that is being a problem. So my recommendation is be comfortable and just look like you put forth some effort for the fair itself. And I want to stress, make sure you have comfortable footwear on, okay? Because you're going to be standing, you're going to be walking, and usually in September, it's usually still rather warm, and you're going to be outside. There's not a lot of shade, so please plan appropriately. If you want to wear a suit, that's fine, but again, sometimes it's always good to be overdressed, but again, not important. If you get an interview, then yes, you will want to come dressed appropriately for an interview in basically a suit of some sort. Okay. All right. Eating. Please, again, you may not, I know you have classes and you're going to be tucking in the career fair probably between classes, right? You're not going to blow off your classes, correct? So again, you need to plan accordingly to your class schedule. So you may want to make sure that you rest well the night before. I mean, I know you guys probably don't go to bed until a lot later than I do. Again, you want to try to, rest up and make sure that you're prepared. But you also want to make sure that you eat appropriately as well for the day, because you are going to be a little tired at the end of the day. So again, if you're accustomed to eating breakfast, then please do so. Lunch. You might want to bring some sort of energy bar or nutrition bar or something also to kind of tide you over if you're not able to get lunch or whatever, because you don't want to be hangry. Okay, so enough of that. Your elevator pitch. This is important. Okay, you guys all know what an elevator pitch is, right? Okay. Do you use the same elevator pitch with all the employers? Now you have to customize it, just like you have to customize your resume. We'll talk about that also, your resume in a bit. So you do want to have a customization of your elevator pitch, depending upon what that particular employer, what kind of jobs they have, what the titles of those jobs are. And that's also a result of you doing your research, right? So again, I do recommend that you bring like a Padfolio or a notebook or something so you can reference that the day of. So you can make notes and you can say, oh yeah, this company had this job and this is what this job was about. So you could embed that in your elevator pitch. So make sure obviously that you're giving us your name, you're in school, your major, are you looking for an internship or for a full-time opportunity? Are you looking in a specific location? All of that. And then again, you can then weave in the fact that you are interested in that computer science internship that you saw posted on the website or in the space organization. And then you can always kind of wrap up your conversation with, can you tell me a little bit more about what I would be doing as an intern or as a full-time employee or whatever it is. So So again, your elevator pitch will have to be customized to the particular employer, right? You also have to practice your elevator pitch. Now, usually the first couple of employers that you may come to, or the first time you use your elevator pitch, it might be a little awkward because it doesn't flow maybe as well as you would like. But again, please practice it. Use your friends, use your roommates, whoever, practice it. Get in front of the mirror. I mean, it might not sound, it's like really, but again, you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the words that are coming out and that the expression on your face matches the words that are coming out of your mouth. Okay, so again, you want to smile because you're usually, you know, I don't think we're going to handshake as much as we used to back in the day, but usually when you would come up and introduce yourself and be that good old handshake. But now I think because of, you know, for health reasons, I think most people are probably are going to shy away from handshaking at this time. So there might still be some that want to shake hands. So anyway, and that's where again, you will, you know, kind of give the pitch and then either hand them your resume, and I'll talk a little bit more about resumes again, about how companies are transmitting or how you provide a resume to a company, because it's a little different now than it used to be back in the day. Okay. And then we are going to, so again, practice, practice, practice. Come early. What time does the fair start? So I know you have classes, but the earlier that you can come, the better, because guess what? We're fresh. We have a lot of energy. We're ready to go. By 2:30 or 3 o'clock, our energy is waning. I need to feel, I'll need to bring energy bars for the staff to make sure that they keep their energy up. But again, by 3 o'clock or 2:30 or when I think the fair ends at 3. Again, we may not be as smiling and as energetic as we were at 10 a.m. That doesn't mean that we still won't be cordial and gracious, but again, we may not just have that energy. We may not have a voice, because usually at the end of the career fair, my voice is usually like gone. So again, try to come as early as you can. I know that that's predicated on your classes and, you know, your availability, because you have other things that you're probably doing that day. All right, enough said about coming early. The next one is time management. Again, going back to your research, and let's say you have a short list of employers, right, that you want to make sure that you go and visit. How are you going to lay out that day? I believe there is a map of the fair, and you'll be able to see it the day of, you know, where all the employer booths are. I don't know if they're doing them in alpha order.
I think we're still figuring it out.
So if it's an alpha order, then that's easy, but if it's not an alpha order, then you may need a map to kind of help decipher where their booth placement is. Some folks will have double tables, some will have a single table. So some could be smaller or bigger depending upon the employer. So again, you want to lay out what your strategy is going to be and who you're going to visit with first. You know, who is the most critical employer for you to chat with, okay? And then you want, again, you need to also build into your time management plan the time you're going to spend waiting in line. So make sure that you build that in as well. And again, you might want to peruse the fair to see who's really busy, and maybe your top employer is just slammed, and you know, kind of like Disneyland, it'll take an hour. We don't have fast passes at the booth. But anyway, you know, you might want to double back and go maybe just to your employer number 2 or number 3, because their lines aren't as long, and then double back with employer number 1. So again, you want to kind of lay out your schedule and how you're going to attack, so to speak, your day and the employers that you want to chat with. Depending upon the line, once you get up to the front of the line, right? Most employers, or during the line, most of us are probably going to use iPads. They probably have already experienced that. We have a system called Yellow or Action, depending upon the company. And what we do is we will be either providing you a QR code for you to snap, or there'll be a text recruit message for you to use, and that will put you on our talent pipeline for the event. And that is something that the sourcers and the recruiters use in filling positions. So it is important. Again, some companies, like a lot of the defense companies, because we're all governed by the office, the OFCCP, the Office of Federal Contracts and Compliance and Programs and whatever else. And we're not allowed to take resumes. So we that's why we have to get them you either electronically load it, and that's also another bullet I have on here, is that you do want to make sure that your resume is loaded onto your phone or somewhere that you can easily attach it to your profile. Okay. We might look at your resume and then hand it back to you, but we do not, for Lockheed Martin, I know we do not take physical copies of resumes. We're not supposed to. So please, make sure, that you've got the e-copies. Some employers, I'm sure, will still take hard copies. So, bring whatever you need. I know I've had students that have run out of hard copies of resumes back in the day, and they've had to go around and try to find some place to go print them and then come back. So just make sure that you've got ample copies. And again, that goes back out to your research and your for the day. Okay. So please don't be put off by the iPad. Some of them will be on stands and you can just go in and punch in. Others, again, like I said, we're try to do it as touchless as possible, but still getting you all to the same place. And you do want to do this because, like I said, this does put you on the talent pipeline. And then there are things that you will get invited to, like we have a hiring event at Lockheed Martin on November the 1st. And we want to include USC students to be a part of that event. But there's more to come on that. There'll be more information flowing out in early October for that November event. All right. What else? You do also on the resumes. It just, you don't have to go spend $1 million on making it goofy. I mean, I've been doing this, as you guys can tell, probably for a long time. So I have seen colored resumes. I've seen resumes with embedded glitter. I've had smelly resumes. I kind of feel like Legally Blonde a little bit with some of the resumes that I've gotten over the years. So again, it just needs to be on. If you're going to have hard copies, spending a lot of money, just make it as plain, but again, readable, and make sure that it has all the pertinent information on it that you want to convey. Again, you also want to, you do want to customize your resume. It is very important that you customize your resume to the position and to the employer that you are going to be, that you're visiting with, okay? So it's, again, just like your elevator pitch, your resume is not one size fits all. You do have to do some customization of your resume. Again, you want to make sure that your resume has keywords from that position description, because most of us most of our recruiters and our sourcers use keywords to source up students from candidate pools. So if the position requires that you have Java, and if Java does not appear on your resume, guess what? We won't see your resume. So make sure that you've got the appropriate keywords for the jobs that you're looking for on your resume. Now, you can do it in one of two ways. You can either put it in a skill section, or you can embed it in when you're identifying your project work. Okay. You utilize Java as a tool for the project. Okay. The other thing, your project work, have all of you heard, have any of you heard of STAR, S-T-A-R? Some of you have. Okay, it's a format that we school our managers in, not only for interview development, but we use it in interviews, but we also promote it certainly in resume reviews. STAR, an acronym. Okay, so S is what is the situation, or what is, what's the problem? So what were you doing on that project? What was the, T are the tasks, A are the actions, and R are the results. Can you quantify results? Now, you may not be able to, was it cost effective? Was it, did you, shave off time, things like that. So if you can quantify results, great, because managers get excited when they see the quantification of projects. If you can't, that's okay. But again, you might want to consider using that format if you don't want tasks and actions kind of maybe are kind of together. So I've also seen the acronym SAR, where it's just the situation, the actions, and the results. But again, keep that in mind maybe when you're laying out your project work, etc. The other thing too, the other thing that I've had students tell me that they've done is they've developed like a master resume with everything, all the projects that they've done ever. And then they cut and paste appropriately their resume depending upon the particular job. So they're not having to keep cutting and pasting and developing whatever the resume is. Okay. The other thing that I'll mention is employers. If you're going to customize your resume and put the name of the company on the resume, make sure you're because I have gotten resumes for other companies. So just make sure that you've got it appropriately, that you're distributing it appropriately or whatever. All right, so enough about resumes. Ask questions. It is very important that you ask questions. Now, again, we know that you're nervous. That's why this portfolio or notebook or whatever it is that you're going to have, jot those questions down and refer to them. Okay, it's okay if you open up your portfolio and make a few notes. That's okay. So, jot down your questions. Hopefully, when you're speaking with the representative, they are hopefully in your mind, you're thinking of things and you're asking them questions. Maybe as a manager is describing what work you would be doing. And again, what could be a good tactic is again to repeat back what you heard or summarize what you heard with the manager, etc. And again, and or ask questions specifically. Hey, I know you mentioned a particular software, a particular system. I'm not familiar with that. That may not be a deal breaker because we don't expect you to come in and know everything. We are prepared to train you, provide you with a mentor to help you develop whatever skills you need to have developed. We want our employees to be successful. So we're not going to just sit you in the corner and say, okay, we'll figure it out. No, we're not like that at all. So again, so you do want to ask questions. And a typical question could be, what kind of development can I expect as an intern or as an entry level? What's a typical day? Those are all things. So again, you do want to ask a few questions. If you don't ask any questions, then that tells that the signal that is sent is that you're not interested. Like, I'm not saying you have to ask 12 questions, but as appropriate, you do want to ask a few questions as appropriate, as you're conversing and at the end, because usually that's kind of a sign too that we're kind of wrapping up our conversation. Again, some of those conversations could go, if the line isn't long, then you may, it could go a little longer. If the line is long, and if I'm managing the line, I may have to hurry along my folks and say, we've got 50 people back here. You're going to need to speed it up a little bit more. But anyway, so again, you do want to have some questions prepared that you get answers to. All right. A lot of students usually ask, hey, do you have a card? Can I get your business card? Okay, we as recruiters have cards. The managers may have cards too, but we usually try to protect our managers as much as we can. So what we will probably do is hand you one of our cards and then you can email us. And then we usually have to ask permission to be able to release names and emails outside of the recruiters. So a manager might hand you this card or she might hand you the card. So what are you going to do with the stack of cards that you have? Are you just going to use them to get dust? Collect dust in your room or on your desk? You want to, well, again, on LinkedIn, be careful because some of these people may not have LinkedIn accounts because of the work that they do. Okay. Okay, and I'm an offender. I'll tell you right now. My LinkedIn profile is really bad because I haven't spent a lot of time working on it. I know LinkedIn is a great tool for you guys. It's not so great of a tool for me because I'm not looking for another job. I've got my network. But again, for you guys need to do it. For me personally, I prefer that you just email me directly on my Lockheed Martin address, and I'll get back to you just a whole lot faster than I will on LinkedIn. But that's just me, okay? So some of them will say, here's my LinkedIn, and, have at it. But again, if you're going through the paces and asking for contact information, please make sure that you follow up with them. Even if it's just to say, thank you, I appreciate, the time you spent with me, or I really enjoyed talking about the Orion space capsule or whatever it is. Okay, so just nothing lengthy. It doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs. Just something, a couple of lines, just acknowledging the conversation and just saying that you're very interested again with the company and with that opportunity. Otherwise, you've lost that contact. So again, you do want to, either use LinkedIn or like I said, email them with the information from their business card, but do follow up with them in some form or fashion. I know the days of sending snail mail, just a quick little email is certainly sufficient in today's times, okay? But please make sure that you have everything spelled correctly, good grammar, because you don't want that message hurting you. You want it to help you. And again, it's okay if you want to periodically also ping the manager or ping the recruiter, maybe, if you haven't heard, or just to say, hey, I'm still very interested in whatever it is. I just wanted to let you know, or, hey, I was reading a magazine, Aviation Weekly, or whatever it is. Or the paper, or you heard on the news something about the company, and you can kind of also use that as a lever to kind of connect as well. Okay. All right. So my tagline is basically, you do want to be prepared. You don't want to, I can tell you stories of students that have run up to the table, and I know that they had no idea the career fair was happening. Okay, which is okay. And they go, oh, I didn't know this was happening. I don't have my resume on me. How long are you going to be here? Because I want to come back and talk to you. So anyway, you don't want to be one of those. You want to be professional in terms of your appearance, your presentation of yourself, and you do want to be authentic. Okay, smile, have fun. If the manager makes a joke, maybe it wasn't funny, maybe not laugh then, but you do want to share and show facial expressions, things of that nature. Okay, so be authentic. All right. And then I have my two bonus tips. Again, attitude is very, very important. I can tell those students that want to be there, and I can tell those students who don't want to be there, but maybe your friend dragged them. Or maybe their mom or dad said, you must go and get a job. So please make sure that you check your attitude, make sure you want to be enthusiastic. We can sense this stuff. And I will tell you, we will always, in my mind, when I walk away from an event or a career fair, they will always stick out in my mind. Okay? And guess what? Those are going to be the ones that I'm probably going to follow up with. Okay? So you want to be enthusiastic and show the energy, and again, come prepared. And again, even when you're doing your elevator pitch, or as you're closing out the conversation with the employer, you do want to affirm your interest in the employer. All right. That is what I have to present, and I wanted to leave time for questions from all of you. So remember what I said about questions? Yes.
For resumes, do you think we should put coursework on a resume to customize it to that?
If you think that that's important and it aligns with what you're applying to, yes. We don't need to know that you've taken physics 101 or math 101 or whatever it is. But again, those classes that you've taken that show maybe a specialization or an interest in a particular area. Yes.
Does that also go for classes you're currently taking?
Yes, you can also add those as well. Yes. And you can qualify that when you're chatting with the employer and say, or I've seen on resumes sometimes in press, And I've even seen some students put what they hope to take in the future or the next term, but again, that might be going a little far, but again, just kind of, in conversation. Hey, I haven't taken that radio frequency class yet, but I know it's something I'm going to be taking next term or something like that. Yes,
What from resume do we have to bring any other documents for the career?
no, just your resume. Like I said, you can either bring hard copies and make sure you have an electronic copy. We don't need to see transcripts or letters of recommendation or any of that. Some of you might have cover letters. You can bring those, but I'm not going to guarantee that they're going to get read. And even at the career fair, just because we're on a mission to meet as many as we can, and also to minimize your wait time, because I'm always worried about, I don't want you waiting in line for an hour. So I want to minimize your wait time. So we're not going to read the cover letters. I can't even, and this is full honesty, and I think other employers will also tell you too. We can't guarantee that a manager is going to read the cover letter or the recruiter or the sourcer is going to read it in the system. Sometimes managers will read them once candidates have been selected for an interview in preparation to chat with that candidate. And that's when they need to read the cover letter. So again, my recommendation is if you have a cover letter, great. Make sure, again, that spelling, syntax, sometimes spell check doesn't catch things, so make sure that you've got there and there as an example. There's other words too, so just make sure that I always recommend that you have another set of eyes or a couple sets of eyes, look at that resume before you hand it over. And again, if you customize it, make sure the employer name is spelled correctly and make sure the word engineer is spelled correctly. I have seen where they both have been incorrectly spelled. Okay, I think you were over here next. Okay.
Do you need a security clearance to work at?
In the position descriptions, it will indicate if a security clearance is required or if you have to just be eligible for a clearance. Now, what it means to be eligible for a clearance, again, because of the nature of work, just like us and our competitors for the most part, is that usually U.S. citizenship is required to get a security clearance. So in the position description, it will indicate if you need to be eligible or if you need to have a clearance before you start. And we know that most students don't have clearances, so that is something that the company is positioned. Once we interview and you get an offer and you accept the offer, then if a clearance is needed, then we would go ahead and move you along that path to get clearance. Okay. But it is not a deal breaker if you don't have a clearance. I know some of you may have clearances because you work with our competitors or coming out of the military. So some of you may have clearances, and that's great. But anyway, so yes. So does that answer your question? Okay. And then you had another question. And we'll go.
Case, like I have applied to a company before the career fair. So can you just tell them that I have applied to the career and just network with them? Is that fine? Or?
You can do that. You can certainly say, hey, I saw on the website, I was, and I've applied to XYZ position. Thank you. And, you're very interested in that position. You can't have them look it up because they're not going to be capable, but you can certainly embed that to show that you have done some homework. And that you're interested in the company and that you have applied. Yes.
One quick question. Specifically for Lockheed Martin. So as you said, regarding the security clearances, international students might not be eligible.
Correct. They may not be good fits for us at this point. Yes, unfortunately. In my tenure in the defense industry, and it's coming on well over 30 years, probably 35, 36 years. Unfortunately, the defense industry typically does not do sponsorship, either optional practical, curricular practical, or H1. So some of your skills, I wish I could hire you because you've got some great skills. So, but yes, and I do want to address that. Okay, you had a question over here, yes.
Yeah, so when you approach a employer and you start with the other but do you have to include your coursework while you're talking? Like, do you say I specialize in these, like, in this tech stack or this thing and taking course
again, if that is what you're most interested in, yes, you could, and you don't have to give them the whole list, but just say, you know, you're most interested in working on front end or back end or whatever it is, or design or FPGA or whatever it is. Yes, you might want to say that you've taken some classes in that area. Yes,
And
and your projects, and you might want to also detail out briefly your projects if you have some project work as well.
yeah, and so that you know that projects when you keep having a conversation with the employee. So if you feel it goes well, like how long do you think it takes for employees to reach out after the bias?
Again, if you've done your homework and see if they've got open jobs, then ideally they may direct you to those jobs, because we may have a list of opportunities that we want to direct you to. Or you know, if we direct you to a job, make sure you go and apply. Or again, if an employer asks you to move back with them, make sure that you do. Sometimes if that student's not do that, they're not interested, even though they appear to be interested at the time. So yeah, it just depends. I mean, some recruiters could get back with you in a couple of weeks. We know that usually what we're told in the field is that most of you will start probably hearing back from employers within a 2-week window in terms of getting you scheduled for, you know, for interviews, things of that nature. That is just, you know, again, I can't say that's true for everybody. Okay. So if you see jobs though that you are interested in for that particular employer, I would highly encourage you to make note of those jobs and apply to them. And then let them know that you've applied, just like this gentleman over here indicated, you know, that you applied to them.
Yeah, so you mentioned right now that, you know, like if an employer says that you need to take a look at this job and so on. So while you're applying for the job, is it possible for you to include that recruiter in some way, like as a referral?
I mean, I don't know, again, you could, if you're gonna do a cover letter, just say you chatted with so-and-so. But again, like I said, I can't guarantee that it's gonna get read. Okay, all right, and then I think you had a question over here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, so for the November interviews, what is the best way to get access to those through the career fair and see, or is there like?
What I plan to do is once I know what the positions are going to be, what majors will be focused on, I believe the jobs for the November 1st will be focused on our space organization in Sunnyvale and also our aeronautics group in Palmdale. So once I have an idea of how many and what majors, then I will be connecting with USC here and asking them to flow that information out to all of you. Okay, so I'll be working, well, it won't be Maggie, I suppose it'll be Stephen, to say, hey, can you push this out to the students so you are aware of that. We may also do some posting, but you guys aren't a handshake school, except Marshall. Marshall's part of handshake. But anyway, but we'll flow it out, and then you know, we'll flow it out, so hopefully you know about it, and then you can determine whether it's something you want to apply to. Again, how we do it is we usually will drive you to probably 3 positions. They're usually kind of broad positions. Then depending upon the positions that we're hiring for, we'll go, let's say, to the engineering rec, look at candidates there, do keyword searches, and pull those candidates onto the specific position. So if you get a call and say, hey, we found you and we think you're a great fit for X, Y, and Z, and talk to that person and get your questions answered. Make sure that it's a location that you want to go to. Make sure it's the type of work that you want to do, okay? So I have, you know, we're supposed to contact everybody that we put on our interview schedule.
Small additional question. So I actually got like but it's for a location. It's kind of out there. Are those locations negotiable? Or is it?
Did you know that about where the location?
So it's forward, but I got connected with because I'm a STEM like scholarship recipient, so that's how they connected me with it. And I accepted the interview, so I'm hoping like everything goes smoothly. I don't mind relocating, but also I prefer somewhere.
Okay, is it for the summer?
Yes.
Okay, keep in mind, it's 10 to 12 weeks only.
Yeah.
And that hopefully, you know, okay, so Fort Worth is the headquarters for Aero. full-on manufacturer. A lot of cool stuff goes on there. So anyway, so I hear, you can ask and just say, you were very interested, but is there any way that maybe you could work for Skunk Works in Palmdale?
Oh,
Okay, all right.
thank you.
So just be careful, because what happens sometimes is we ask the student, are you okay with the location? And they say, yes, 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 and then an offer comes and then they say, no, because I don't want to go to that location. So just be honest with us, okay, up front. So maybe we do have wiggle and can move you to another location. Okay, all right. Question back there.
Hi, you mentioned the company's name on the resume that practice.
Not necessarily, yeah, because again, it could lead to confusion.
Try all these.
Or you run out of resume. Anyway, I would recommend that you probably leave the company name off.
I took out.
I
tried all the ones. And the transcript of this recording. The Zoom question.
Is that something that we can disconnect?
I'm not gonna, I mean,
Some people.
usually what impresses me is more what you're bringing to the table and what we're conversing about and your preparedness. As opposed to what you're wearing. I mean, if it's something, if it's like some outrageous hat or something, then yeah, I probably will remember you. But I'm not sure that's what you want me to remember about you. Does that? All right, who else had their hand right here? Yes.
Margaret, one thing, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. So we do have to move out of the room,
Oh.
but you can continue asking questions outside. If you want, Margaret, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So I don't have the hour? Is that what you're telling me?
You have maybe 5 more minutes.
All right, 5 more minutes.
You do 5 more minutes.
Okay, and then I'm more than
But
happy
then,
to
yeah, I'll
hang
back.
out there if you have other questions. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
In the career fair, how to advance the discussion with the how to make them remember.
Well, again, it's going to be your preparedness and talking about what your skills are and what they do. Okay, so if they're telling you, say, you've got to see, we've got to see the alignment with what you're interested in. Okay, so again, if I'm looking, what's your major one?
Engineering.
Management, okay. Is that your master's or is that, what was your undergrad degree in?
Master,
Okay, what was your undergrad degree in?
hydraulic engineer.
Okay, okay. So again, what do you want to do? How do you want to apply engineering management to us? So that's how you're gonna, that's what you're gonna have to do some digging on the website to see how engineering management would fit in. Now, again, you're not gonna probably see jobs that say engineering management associate or, or entry level. You're gonna have to pull on the skills that you have that apply to the other jobs that are on the website. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So again, maybe it's project management. Maybe you might see, you'll probably see project management jobs, and that might be things that, again, but you're gonna have to help the recruiter tie together what your major is and how it applies to where your interests are and to the job. That's why an objective statement, I know some schools don't promote objective statements, and sometimes students I know feel like they pigeonhole you or, limit you. But sometimes recruiters need help identifying what it is that you want to do. Because every so often I'll pick, given the courses and what I've seen, and then I find out, no, it's totally something different when I have a conversation with them. So it's like, you have to help us because we can't read minds. We don't know. So you have to try to help us as much as you can. Ideally with an objective statement of some sort. And again, that objective statement could be customized depending upon the company. All right, so I since we're being
You got a
Booted
couple
out.
minutes.
okay, all right. Any further questions at all? Okay, hopefully you found this helpful. You can also apply this to virtual career fairs. Now I know Viterbi is going to do all theirs in person. I know Marshall has some But again, a lot of this, some of the same principles can be applied to virtual events as well. Obviously, you're not going to be able to have a handshake or, do things in person, but behind the screen. But again, a lot of it is going to really boil down to being prepared, your attitude, how you present yourself, and again, connecting. And again, we do try to bring as much as we can the same people back to campus, so you can kind of establish a relationship. That's one of the things that I do try to do. So again, getting those cards or things of that nature is also, another way to establish your network. But again, you want to build your network and meet with the recruiters. And like I said, just be prepared and come as early as you can to the fair. All right, well, thank you for your time. Also, if any of you want to get a head start on your profile, you can scan the QR code there and set up your profile and load your resume.
Yeah, we're gonna
You're
try to get
welcome.
some batteries.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
I think we can get the
You guys
batteries by the
enjoy
next
your
session, right?
afternoon.
Like I said, I would.
Hopefully it's not gonna rain.
I think we should be, I'll let you know because you're gonna be for the next section too, but I think we should be good. The nice thing is it picked up really well, so on the Zoom, it's transcribing fine, and I feel like everyone was able to hear, so that's good. We're gonna try to get it in the intro though. Appreciate that. Someone was asking. Someone's asking about getting the QR code from that. Should I take a photo and then somehow email? Because you can attach.
Just answer the. Here,
Oh,
like this.
I thought you meant like literally. Like,
No, no, no.
which, I mean,
You're welcome. Okay, so. Were you the one that emailed?
Yeah, I was that email you, yeah, so it's great to see you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so I was actually interested about learning more about the affordable education, because I